I mean, I was pretty sure that, you were since very childhood into the profession of, doing something for the society, giving back to the society. So how did that come in?
Oh, I think that's just that ties back into my own personal beliefs and motivations and the way I was raised. I was raised, my father and mother were Christians. My father really did most of the, I think, instruction in our household. I think I come from a patriarchy, really. I think in throughout my family, it's really more of the fathers that raise the children than the mothers do, in my view. And my father had a condition most of his life called ankylosing spondylitis. It's where your spine fuses, all of your ribs fuse, your spines fuse, everything. It's very painful, and it's crippling. And he had always wanted to be a cowboy. All of his brothers and sisters were very active, and from young adulthood, he couldn't be as active anymore. And I think he became more of a thinker than the others, maybe. And so there was a lot of, he shared his philosophies a lot, and his philosophies were more about management and leadership, and some pieces about how to act out your faith, but not a lot. I could see his faith, but most of what he talked about was how to make sure you're taking care of those around you. And so I grew up with that. I grew up in an area that in one sense was a pretty safe area. In another sense, it was kind of rough. And in the rough parts of that, I had to deal with some heavy bullies. And they were overwhelmingly stronger and outnumbered me. And I had to learn how to fight to do that. And it was not necessarily my nature. But you get put into a situation, you either crumble or you fight. And I learned from 5 years old, I learned that, okay, well, you just have to fight. Through that, I went through different stages when I was young. You learn how to beat a bully. There was a couple kids that I bullied, and I had to, learn later that no, that's bad, that's ugly. So I've been on both sides of the fence. And but as I got older, and I talked about what led me into the military. I never cared about becoming wealthy. I never cared about, I didn't have any really big goals for me other than to be a parent. All the way through, I always wanted to be a parent. But it was really when I got into the military and I started learning in professional military courses that I started realizing that what we are here for is to help. What we are here for is to serve others who can't do what you can do, or may not be willing to do what you are willing to do. And that was the most rewarding part of it all. So that comes from, an inner drive in me. I very much like to work with my hands. When I get put into a job where I'm sitting at a desk, I have to have hobbies or part-times or do volunteer work where I am out doing hard labor. It's just, I need that. And same thing with giving back to people and helping others. If I'm not doing that, then I'm not serving my purpose. And so I look for those opportunities. But in my experience, it's more having your eyes and ears open for when you are needed.
Right.
And whenever you're needed, and whatever that need is, you step in. When I was I didn't have many instances in the military where that came up. Even though I deployed to war, I wasn't in thick combat or anything like that, where I can't remember anything that really stood out that, really tried me. When I was a police officer with Los Angeles Police Department, I worked the very bad areas. And there you get tried. Everybody gets tried all the time. And you hear a radio call that, there's a gunfight. How bad do you want to get there? How fast do you want to get there? What are you willing to risk to get there? And you see differences in people. There was me and many others. You want to get there faster than humanly possible and dive into it. And it doesn't make sense. And at some point, it's early on in, and throughout this time, really, I was not a Christian as I was growing up. I looked at my parents and the hypocrisy that I saw in them. I became an atheist. And then maybe agnostic for a while or whatnot. It wasn't until I was a police officer for a few years before I became a Christian. But once I did, I thought about how much. So I worked in an area where it was lots of gunfights, lots of physical fights. The criminals that we would arrest, career criminals, killed many people, very dangerous levels. And that's what I want. I didn't want to do parking tickets or, oh, you're driving too fast, or let me write out this report. No, I wanted to go stop the big things.
Mhm.
And I'm a father, I have little kids, and I'm so excited to go to work every night. And I'm so excited to go jump into those situations. And I started thinking like, okay, I'm twisted. There's something wrong with me. Maybe I have a violence problem. I don't think I do, but maybe I have a violence problem. And I ended up I was a training officer, and I had a trainee that night that was a really good, solid trainee. And we got a call of a gang party. The gang was 18th Street gang, so a very serious gang. And what we would do at a gang party is go and investigate, make sure it didn't get out of control, maybe shut it down. If we find people that are supposed to be in jail, we would catch them. But it was a busy night, and I had many other calls. And somebody else took the call from me. A gang unit came on and said, we'll take that. So I'm just listening to everything. When they got there, they asked for all of the other gang units to come right away. So I'm listening closer, and I'm kind of far away, and I'm on another call with people who've been stabbed, and we're trying to figure out what happened. And then the next call that I hear is, and down in this neighborhood, 18th Street had painted a big mural on a wall that said they were going to kill one of us. And when the media released who we were, they would track down our family and go kill our family. And it's in this neighborhood that this call comes up. The next thing I hear on the radio is the gang unit that took the call from me, shooting and saying, "Officer's down, officer needs help." So I was the driver officer that night. Well, their driver officer, he'd been killed. People snuck around behind them and just emptied a pistol and killed him. And so we all rushed down there. Didn't catch the shooter that night. We did months later. And then I got selected to guard his house because of the threat that they were going to come and do that. And I got to pick whoever I wanted. So I picked one of the trainees who's a ex-US Navy SEAL. And he and I went, and I was hoping they would come. I was really hoping they would come so I could make sure that we made it clear that we will keep our people safe. Nothing happened, but still now I'm feeling like, okay, I'm really twisted. Am I just the good guy wanting, am I doing the same bad things for the good side as the bad guys are doing for the bad side? Is it in me that, and I didn't feel like I was, but I'm trying to sort it out. And at his funeral, they read a scripture out of the Bible called Romans 13, where it talks about how God ordains authority and that it carries a sword for a reason. And if you're doing good, you have nothing to worry about. But if you're doing bad, it has a sword for a reason. And I realized that I was well cut out. I was very good at my job. I was very good at training other people to be good at their job. And not many people want to go and jump into those kind of situations. And that I was part of that sword. And it put me at peace that, okay, I'm not a violent person that wants to hurt you. I still am that person that wants to serve and protect. And the other side that people see, they see the cops and the gangsters. What they don't see is for every gangster, there's 500 community members that are afraid of that gangster. Well, I see them every single day. I hang out with them. I hold their children. I speak with them. I talk to them. So I should put that out there. And it angers me, you know, with the gangsters. I'd be very angry, not because of the way they look, not because of the way they talk, or even because of what they say to me or that they threaten me. But I know what they do to the children. I know what they do to the women in the area. And those children and those women are defenseless against the gangsters,
Right.
except for me and my team. So that helped me put that kind of thing together. So when I ended my time with the police department, I had an opportunity in my favorite sport of motocross. I started a side business and I had to decide, it took up too much time. I had to decide to do a whole career in the police department, which I had never planned on doing, or to go into business. And so I went into business. And at first I went into business to help these young motocross racers and freestyle motocross riders. They were being taken advantage of by companies and they needed help learning how to do contracts and run their business and build their brand. And I had some success with that. And so I loved helping them out and they needed help. Years into it, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years into it, it wasn't as much that they were all millionaires. It was me helping spoiled young athletes become even richer. So it wasn't as rewarding. It was fun, but it wasn't as rewarding. Didn't fulfill me. And so I found myself doing a lot more volunteer work because I wasn't being fulfilled. And that is kind of where the transition, that's where I kind of woke up to. It really doesn't matter. Like if you're going to be a police officer, LAPD is one of the most famous, one of the best in the world. Everyone knows it. That's a great place to stay. I wasn't into being a police officer. I loved it there. I had a great time. But that's not me. Same thing in the military. I loved my time. I definitely love my country. I'm not a career guy. That's not me. I was a part of it. Working in sports and being a sports agent, that was fun. It was helpful, but it was not me. What's me through all of it? Serving other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I learned is just keep my eyes open, keep my ears open, and see where help is needed. And sometimes it's digging a ditch. Give me a shovel, give me a pick, and I'll dig. I'll dig as hard as anybody. I worked for a short time. I worked for a nonprofit, a ministry, and they were hesitant to hire me because I've been a senior executive in other companies, but the position was the very bottom position in the company. And I think some people didn't like that I was not a fit. They wanted a bottom person for the bottom role. And I was like, if all you want me to do is clean toilets, if that's how because I really like their mission, if you need toilets cleaned, I'm doing that. I have enough money. I'm not here working because this is great money. I'm happy to be whatever you need. If you need me to clean toilets, if you need me to drive trucks, if you need me to run the company, whatever you want me to do, I'm here to serve the mission that you have, because I love the mission you have. And that's that's how that's how Motive came about. Was we saw that child, and it wasn't me with my eyes open and ears open. I was digging the ditch. I was down trying to fix the rock, and maybe Valley would have missed it too had he not been so sick, but he would have probably seen it anyway. um he's more observant than I am on that thing. But I think it's being the type of person that when you see a need, you dive in. And I think I've been really blessed by being able to live in different places around the world. Got to live in Turkey for a year. It was great being able to live in a Muslim country. I was I was the president of an orphanage in the town that we were in, so I got to really interact with some of the clerics there and their version of nuns, and the I've lived in different places in the United States, and then in working, especially as a sports agent, I got to go around the world a lot. And then now in nonprofit world, I've been able to travel a bit and see. And what I see everywhere I go, people are the same. They look different, speak different. People are the same. You see the same personality characteristics. You can see the same conditions, like people who grew up in a state of survival. They have certain mental blockages for certain paths forward that those of us that grew up being nurtured don't have.
Mhm.
And it's that was one of the big realizations for me. And I see, I know some of them, I have close friends that have that, and it's so unnatural for them to think the way I think about living in abundance and sharing, as opposed to no, hold this close, make sure you're okay. That ship sinks. My ship continues to float higher, and it's invisible, but it's because of the survival mode they grew up in. So any little part that I can do to affect a positive change so that their lives might be able to be more fulfilled, like my life has been more fulfilled, then that's great. But really, whatever the calling is, if it is, I wouldn't be, I've never been the one to hesitate to dive into a bad situation to help somebody.
Right.
And I think that it's not because of my training. I think there's plenty of people like me. Sometimes it's a little old grandma, and she'll dive in and start smacking a thief with her purse to protect somebody. There's just those things inside of people, and I like to foster those things. And that's some of what we try to do in Motive. Is, and that's back to the definition. It's go make it happen. Don't sit and talk about it. You've thought about it too much already. Go do it. Just do it. If you make a mistake, good. Fail fast, give it another shot. Fail fast, give it another shot. And that's another thing that in other cultures I've run into big differences in: the fear of failure and the stigma of failure. One of the most successful businessmen I've ever worked with is a guy named Mark Geiger. And he is one of the most influential music industry executives in the world. Founder of the Lollapalooza tour. He manages all the biggest bands. He's a superpower. And we were in meetings in his office. His office is very large, and he's got all kinds of memorabilia all over his walls, from rock stars and movie stars and all this amazing stuff. And I don't remember if it was me or somebody else in the meeting asked him at the end of a meeting, like, if there was a fire and you had to grab one thing to take out of here? What is the most meaningful piece? And I can't remember what the individual pieces were, but it would, you know, it would be like Elvis Presley's suit or something. It was amazing stuff. And he pointed to a sign behind him. He had it framed, and it was made by the people that work for him. And it said, fail, 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 succeed. Fail, 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 fail. And he said, that's what I would take. And we're like, why? And it looks handmade. And he goes, it's the recipe for success. That's how you win. And because my team made it for me, but this would be for success. And if somebody, a self-made, very top of a very big, very hard industry tells me that is the recipe for success, I'll use it. And I do. But like when I'm working with my teams in Latin America, if you fail, you just leave, you go away. And if somebody is a failure, you stay away from them. If they failed, stay. And I'm like, that's why you're stuck. If you fail, go again. Fail, go again. I mean, you would never walk if the first time you fell over, you're just like, okay, never again, not doing that again. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. I mean, I can relate to the fail part more so because yesterday when I was watching the Jimmy Wales talk show on YouTube, wherein he speaks about the innumerable times he failed before he actually launched and succeeded with Wikipedia. So I mean, that's beautiful. It's lovely to hear.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So coming back to the theme of the podcast, which is how are NGOs going online? How did your organization take the step to go online and grow online, especially during the pandemic time?
Well, right now we haven't, and we're online. We have a website built, but right now we're in the process of developing our online strategy. So to us, we want to factor in the branding. Branding is very critical. There's a lot of psychology that goes in behind branding, and I have expertise in that from past business. I have my director of communications has great expertise. He's the former, like one of his past jobs was he was the director of PR for Kia, the auto manufacturer, to remake their image when they were not viewed as a good image here. Now they have have a very good image. He's helping with that. And then we are working with a company called 5D Spectrum that have marketing inputs, but more of their media strategy. How long should videos be? What format should they be? What platform should they be on? How frequently should a message go out? How do you align a message with the target audience you're after? And what is your target audience? There's so much strategy that can go into it. There's also, you can have something that kicks off and sends you viral where it surpasses that. But if you don't have your brand identified and defined well, if you don't understand what your organization's goals are, the direction you intend for it to have, and it goes viral, it could end up kind of out of shape for what you're really there for. So before we give it the opportunity to do that, we want to have that definition really well honed. And one of the challenges with our organization is we are made to be multiplied. So the Motive portfolio of programs has been developed on the ground in Peru. It's not designed for Peru, it's designed for anywhere. We hope to see it go to other countries in Latin America, especially the Caribbean, but all around the world. And so what we are developing is standard operating procedures, definitions of our programs, so that somebody like you could say, hey, there's a region in India or a community in India, I think these programs could help. We would like to initiate them. So you become part of Motive. We take that package and we'll probably send an advanced team over to help evaluate what resources you have, what the problem is, what other resources you might need. And then we train you up on how to launch these. And then we're able to guide and work with you remotely. So it's kind of works out of a hub. And that defining that is really key and critical. And it's tricky. We're now being contacted by groups on other continents that want to launch Motive, and we need to make sure that we have it very right, so we have that consistency, so that the end result is a positive one. And it can be a positive one in Nigeria, it could be a positive one in Peru, it could be a positive one in India, it could be a positive one in Tajikistan. So that's before we go online. Online is like putting your business out on the highway and putting up a big sign. It needs to have inside what it's supposed to have inside. It needs to look the way it's supposed to look. And it needs to have the right people in place to be able to carry it at the pace it's going. And ours has a pace that it will grow at. That's probably our biggest challenge. So that's what we were waiting for. But our approach to it is really a media launch, social media. Our website is a landing page. It's a home place. It's where donations will come in from. It could be where maybe merchandise is sold to raise funds. But our presence, our outward message needs to go out on platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media platforms.
Okay, that's great. So considering you haven't really launched as yet, did the project, however, see a downfall during the pandemic?
What about the pandemic?
Did the project, however, see a downfall, considering there was nothing online as such?
The pandemic kind of helped create us. It's certainly in Peru, is where we were at. We already had the program helping the kids. And Peru had very draconian lockdowns, still does. That's how we were able to feed so many people. They couldn't get food anywhere else. They couldn't get food any other way. It's how we were able to create the Bitcoin microeconomies right there, because the normal things weren't accessible. So we found ways around it. We found it through Bitcoin and creating Bitcoin circular microeconomies. Well, when the pandemic eased up, those economies, they worked better than the fiat economies. So they continued to flourish. The other thing that helped us was, and this goes back to what's inside of me, what's inside of Valley, churches closed down in the pandemic. I don't understand that at all. I can't fathom that. Nonprofits closed down, stopped operations. I can get it if you're a secular nonprofit. I do not understand it if you are a faith-based nonprofit. God didn't shut down. Why are you? Did he tell you to stop? Didn't tell us to stop. And so it left so many people down there without any help. It left so many people down there without support that we filled in a lot of the breach. It also had leaders of organizations questioning us like, hey, why are you doing this? Shut down. We're all shutting down. You shut down. And it let help us divide ourselves from them and say, no, we're doing this because it's the right thing, not just because there's money to do it. And if there was not money to do it and we could still do something, we would still do it. Where other organizations really were, we'll do it as long as it fits within this. So we have a different level of conviction about that. And I enjoyed that being a part of the initial makeup of Motive.
That's great to hear.
The pandemic is horrible. But it left a big need, so it left a big opportunity, and we're not afraid of any opportunity.
That's
Not
great
afraid of tackling any need.
That's great to hear. So how do you manage your funds? Do you just chip in from your own pockets, or do you have any platform where you raise money and funds from?
We haven't officially launched a platform to raise funds from. We do have, so we have a program that we're launching, but we haven't really launched it big to the public. It's, if you go to our website, you can donate. We've not received anyone just going there and donating. We have chipped in from our own pockets. I've chipped in from my own pockets, my wife and I. And then we do have a donor base that is very specific in what their goals are. And they have been, without them, we wouldn't have been able to do it all, what we're doing. So their support has been just unbelievable. We hope to be growing that, but again, we want everything formed. The other thing about revenue is we don't want to live, I'm not comfortable living on donation. We intend to have 3 revenue streams. One is donation. Of that donation, we expect there will be very large donors. And separately, there will be smaller personal donors. There's a different way to reach each of those. There's different things. One, it might be that the smaller donors are basically giving you a tip saying, I like what you're doing, here's something. Where the larger ones are saying, they have a goal, they have a purpose, and they're more demanding. As long as they're aligned with our goals, that's great. The other channel, the next channel that we have is project management. So that's what by background, I'm a project manager by profession and education, and program manager actually. And we're working with, we have an energy development company that is creating a waste to energy landfill in Peru. So we are being hired to do some pieces of the project management, brokering some of the relationships, and then we will be the social responsibility give back motive on the ground in Peru. They will be donating profits from those projects into, portions of it into some social causes, some hospitals, motive, things like that. And now we're looking at about 3 or 4 of those projects are on the table right now. So we hope to earn through skill and ability that way. The communications, we talked about the media launch and how on our web launch. So in Peru, we are building a communications branch to where we are training people up. We're taking experts from Hollywood here that are video directors, producers, writers, and they are leading teams down in Peru, creating the team and leading them to be able to create media products for a client. The client is motive. So when they get good at that, they're going to be able to go to other companies, whether it be NGOs or anyone, and say, hey, we can do your project work. So that profitability comes in. And then the last piece that we're right now exploring the launch of is actually some development of technology. So developing blockchain technologies that help humanitarian causes, whether it be pan-global humanitarian type assistance or a specific type of problem, like that you see going on in a certain region, to empower the people to be connected and to be protected. Those type of technologies, we have some ideas on how to develop that. We're putting together the funding, the planning, and the staff. So our goal is to have those 3 channels of revenue to be able to be a stable company that builds a healthy endowment so that we have business continuity over 100 years or more, not just a short period of time.
Right, that's great to hear. So, do you think the organization would be able to grow better once you have a particular and like a fixed amount of revenue and donations coming in through an online platform, or is the current pace going fine for you guys?
Is the question that do we have enough revenue coming in right now?
Yeah, or do you think the online platform would help you grow better?
Oh, I think the online platform will definitely help us grow. I'm not sure to what extent. I really don't think about the online platform as a place to develop revenue. I think about the online platform as a place to introduce motive and bring awareness
Marketing purposes,
to,
basically.
yeah. And along with that, maybe it serves more to bring in companies that go, okay, we'll use your project management. You guys are doing a great job with project management in areas on the ground in the world. We have some unique properties there. Others, it might be donation. And I really don't know. I don't know what the mix will be.
Okay.
I know what the need is. I know what we're called to do. We'll watch and see how it plays out, and we'll adjust. And we will probably follow the fail, 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 succeed, fail model.
That's lovely to hear. So the last question I had was, why did you really choose the purpose of motive to serve humanity in terms of food and shelter?
Oh, it's not really, the purpose is not to serve for food and shelter. Our purpose, if you really boil it down, is to serve people by educating them and equipping them and empowering them to know that and to become truly independent,
Self-sufficient.
self-sufficient, and very independent. So many people are dependent upon, they might be dependent upon a charity. They might be dependent upon a company. They might be dependent upon a government. And all of us should have free will, which means we should do what we are led to do, as long as it doesn't hurt others. And there are systems in place that prevent people from having free will. And if you leave them dependent upon, let's say, a government program for a long time, the government gets to do whatever they want to them. That's not right. But it's the way a government can stay in power. Or it's a charity, and the charity really, rather than help elevate these people, it just keeps them at where they are. So our goal is to raise people up, and to where when we educate them, we equip them, and we empower them, that they're emancipated, they're freed from these things that are holding them down, and that they realize, and a big part of our teaching is that they realize that it's not to keep it to themselves now that they've figured it out. Because if you do, your neighbors will just take it from you because they don't have. The thing is, now teach them and have them teach the others around you, and you raise whole communities that way in a healthy way.
To grow
So
together, basically.
what's that?
To grow together.
Yes. And so rather than tackle the food and shelter, I want them to tackle food and shelter. Why can't they do food and shelter themselves? Let's figure that out and have them figure out how to get their food and shelter. Because if I just provide it and the shelter blows down, now I got to go provide it again. It's just it's a never-ending circle.
Right.
And those people are exactly evenly equipped as I am in their head, their capabilities. We're all the same. So let me free them up in the way that I was born free and was raised in a way to be able to be free. I want them to have those same opportunities and to realize it and to understand them. So that's really the goal of Motive, to provide that independence and free will.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for doing this for me once again. And I was honored to have you here and to basically learn all the lovely things you've been doing for society and humanity. It was lovely understanding and learning that.
Great. It was an honor to be a part of it, and best of luck in your program.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.